Here we go. My name's Todd.
This is Cathy.
Welcome back to another episode of Zen Parenting Radio. This is podcast number, I wrote it down so I wouldn't forget,
729.
No, 730.
730.
While, and then next week is 731.
And that's Dr. Solomon?
Dr. Solomon.
Okay.
So we recorded that last week. But today we're going to talk, first I need to say our motto. Why listen to Zen Parenting Radio? Because you'll feel outstanding. And always remember our motto, which is the best predictor of a child's well-being is a parent's self-understanding.
I have to say something funny. So Todd is busy today because he's got to travel today and we've got all these things going on. And I told him this morning that I had a dream about him last night, that he was like running in front of me with earphones in. And I was just chasing after him going, you don't have to do it all. You don't have to do it all. What do you think about that?
Today's a good example of me trying to do it all.
No, well, and it's one of those things where I know that everything you're doing, it's about our family. It's like you just had to go help Skylar. You're helping your dad. Like, it's not as if you're choosing things that are unimportant. It's just sometimes it's just funny. It's just funny that in my dreams I'm chasing after you.
Well, here's the thing.
What's the thing?
There's days when I'm a lazy person sitting on the couch watching football. Love it. Right?
Can we not call you lazy?
No, I'm going to call it lazy.
No, because
you can call it your word. I'm going to use it my word.
I just think it's called relaxing.
Pleasure.
Enjoyment.
It's
right. Not lazy.
And it's like, it takes all my energy to like go to the grocery store and get turkey and strawberries.
On those days.
Yes. And then today I woke up.
We eat turkey and strawberries.
Yeah. Well, that's what
we get for lunches. Yeah.
But then today, like, I don't know, my stupid body, I love my body, but
yeah,
my body woke up at 5 a.m.
Me too.
Frustrating.
You and I, did I wake you up?
No.
Okay.
And then I had to get on the DMV website to have our youngest daughter take her driver's test, and then
she's got her license, everybody. Yeah, clap it up.
Hold on, let me clap it
Our
up.
youngest daughter is now a driver, so we have 3 children and 3 drivers.
Yeah, when we started this podcast, we had no drivers.
They were very far away from driving.
And then I need to produce a show. I want to possibly have lunch with you, and then I gotta go, and then I gotta pack and shave and shower all within like the next 2.5 hours so that I can go to the airport with my dad. My dad's going to Florida and I'm flying down there with him. So it's just weird. It's like some days are crazy, and other days aren't.
We sometimes pack it in. Like
sure.
We'll look at a calendar and be like, oh, we can do it that day because this is at 12, this is at 1:30, this is at 2 or 3. But really, it doesn't work in reality.
It works if everything goes according to plan, which doesn't happen.
It doesn't happen. So today,
I'm going to first play this.
Okay. Todd, it's killing me. You got to let it go.
No, we're never letting it go. We're going to play it at the Zen Parenting 2024 in January.
It's just, first of all, we figured out, did we already talk about how they say NES to LES and there really is no S on the end of Nestle?
Yeah, but it's just a good rhyme.
Yeah, I know, but that's wrong. Like they did it wrong.
Right.
So anyway, yes.
So I want to say that. And then I had something funny. I'm going to quote Cathy Cassani Adams here for a second.
That's me.
This is a quote from you on the front porch last week.
Oh, great.
You ready?
Okay.
I'm going to try to say it how you said it.
Okay.
I'm going to I asked you if you're going to the hot yoga class.
Okay.
And you go, I'm going to have to think about that. I'm thinking no. You like thought for 1/4 of a second. And it's because you're not a fan of hot yoga classes. You like regular yoga classes.
Don't make me hold poses for 10 years.
In a room that's like 99 degrees.
Yeah, I mean, and I used to do hot yoga and I'd get migraines and headaches. And remember, I just still think about that one class we did in Seattle. We went to such a hot yoga class. We came out, there was like steam coming out of our heads.
Unbearable.
It was. And so my point is I love yoga and why and for those of you that love hot yoga, more power to you, enjoy it. This is not a condemnation of hot yoga. It's for me. I like regular yoga. I like vinyasa. So
It's just funny. Like, I'm going to have to think about that. Now I'm thinking no. And I just
It was
wonder,
quick.
were you actually going to think about it? Or were you just saying that?
Getting better at realizing that that's not what I think, because you were going, sometimes I'm like, we'll go together and then, but I don't want to go.
Yeah.
Todd likes to do certain things I don't like to do, and vice versa.
So I'm going to play the Nestle song at the Zen Parenting 2024.
Connecting.
And if you haven't gotten your tickets, get them now. If you want to see the lineup, go to the link in these show notes, and you can even see a little montage of all the different people we've had at our Zen Parenting conferences in the past. And space is limited, so if you're thinking about it, make sure you get your tickets now.
A bunch of people bought tickets this weekend. I don't know what happened. I posted something on social media, maybe that and I always say something in my Zen Parenting moment, but I don't know.
And a quick Zen Parenting was coming up in the next week or so. Micro talk, separation, divorce, differently wired families, loved ones dealing with addiction.
Wait, you got to like switch gears. People don't know what you're talking about. This is Team Zen.
Team Zen. That's our $25 a month. And it is what's my little thing?
He always starts with the money.
I know. That's what I'm most interested in.
No, but
okay. Join the circle.
Join Team Zen Circle.
It's a Team Zen membership platform. It's an app with Zen Parenting Radio's complete parenting content collection, plus live talks all in one place.
Yes, it's everything we do on one app.
And you get warm, fuzzy socks from us as soon as unless you're out of the country. If you're out of the country, maybe I'll send something different to you electronically, like
this is what I will say is one of the things we do on Team Zen on our app and on our, within our community is every month we have an expert speaker. And the next like 3 or 4 people that we have coming in are amazing.
Yeah.
Like we have 3 major authors, major books that are coming out, and you have to go to, well, actually, should we share?
I'm sorry, I was doing something else.
Oh, I was just going to say, do we want to share all the authors that are going to be our guests on Team Zen?
Sure.
Okay, go to the app so we get their names right and we get the dates right.
Dana Abraham.
She wrote Calm the Chaos, and her book came out last month, and she is our guest in this October. And then
Susan Stifelman.
Everybody probably knows her. She wrote Parenting with Presence, and then another one that's really big,
Parenting Without Power Struggles. She's great.
Parenting
with Presence.
We've been in a lot of virtual communities with her, and she is our November speaker. And
December is Dr. Robin Silverman.
Dr. Robin Silverman has a podcast called How to Talk to Kids About Anything, and she now has a book coming out called How to Talk to Kids About Anything. And then in January, it's not really sponsored by us, but I'm interviewing Shefali for Glenn Bard Parent Series. So that's going to be kind of like our quote unquote, guest speaker that month. And so we got a lot of things. Like I sometimes look at Team Zen and I'm like, this is rock solid.
Yeah, it is.
Like, I think this is really good. But anyway.
So today we decided to go back into the archives of personal growth / self-help.
We went way back.
1989, I think, is when this came out.
That's when I graduated from high school. I think it's 87, Todd.
You could be right.
Yeah.
I'll double check. Stephen Covey, he's the author of 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And I want to just play, because he has a very kind of distinct voice.
Very
for
soothing.
those of you guys who've ever heard him. And this is just some random part and some talk he gave. But
he wanted to commit suicide. And Frankel pressed him. Why don't you? He said, because if I predeceased my wife, it would make her so unhappy and miserable. And I love her so. That alone gave him meaning to survive.
I think he's talking about Viktor Frankl.
And he would constantly ask the question,
really?
What is life asking of you?
Yeah.
I just love his voice. It's very distinct. And sometimes when I'm listening to somebody's ideas, it's good to hear their voice also. I do it with Richard Rohr a lot whenever we play Richard Rohr stuff.
Yes. And he's a lovely man. I had a job in the 90s at a university here in Illinois. And I would like put together like events. That was my job, which is so funny to me now. Cause I guess I still put together events.
Of course you do.
It's not that crazy.
No.
But Stephen Covey was our speaker, and I got the opportunity to introduce him and to sit with him. I was like 26 years old. And I was already such a self-help person that I was just enthralled and just loved listening to what he had to say. And the sad thing is, I'm skipping way ahead, but he died because he got into a bike accident.
I believe that's correct.
And he was wearing his helmet. I remember reading about him being like, this can't be real.
Yeah.
Like this guy who was so like
alive.
And so he, to me, he was like Wayne Dyer to me. And again, Wayne Dyer had a more spiritual slant. But Stephen Covey had a little bit of that. And, you know, he blended his work with Franklin.
Yeah, it's always Franklin Covey.
So it's Franklin Covey. They came together and they used to, everyone will remember from the 90s, all the Gen Xers, that like there would be these pictures on the wall that said like success. And then it'd be like a picture and a quote, and they were in like every office.
Yeah.
And then they also sold like planners.
Sure.
Remember the Franklin Covey shops? So anyway, Todd and I always have been such a big fan. And I decided this semester for my college class, that I was going to use 7 Habits, which is really the opposite of what I do. I usually get a brand new book about research. Like last semester, I used Think Again. And the semester before that, I used Daniel Pink's book and so on. I'm always using the most current. And this semester, I wanted to focus on a book that holds up. And we're talking about family this semester, like it's sociology of the family, which may sound strange, but it's why we're talking about it on this show. These 7 habits are not just business oriented. These are life habits. These are ways of interacting with people that Todd and I think apply very well to family. And we actually even had the family version of this book. Because remember, we made a family vision
7 habits
statement.
of highly effective
families. Do you remember our family visions?
No.
Our mission statement?
I remember us doing it,
yeah,
but I don't remember what it was.
And it was really clarifying.
Yeah.
Like it very much helped us. And that's one of his
behavior 2.
Yeah, that's
habit 2.
Under habit 2. But anyway, so Todd, go ahead and start us off.
I just to give everybody my experience of this book, it's probably either this or Rich Dad Poor Dad was probably like the very first kind of self-help book I'd ever read. And I really loved it, and I fell in love with it. And then I started getting into Wayne Dyer and some more spiritual stuff, probably because of you. And I just I felt like 7 Habits was a little too
basic,
not basic.
Business.
There just wasn't enough heart to it. It was too practical, which is crazy for me. And now that I haven't read this book in 20 years or maybe 25 years, now I'm just preparing for today's podcast, I'm realizing how amazing it is
and how heart-centered it actually is.
So I'm viewing it through a completely different lens. So,
and you know what Stephen Covey would say, that's a paradigm shift.
Yes.
That's what he talks about in the whole first introduction, is how when we shift the way we see it, everything changes.
Well, maybe it's funny. The one thing I do remember with at least a certain amount of clarity about that book, I think I listened to it. You'd like get the tapes from the library, you bought the book on tape or whatever. Maybe we'll talk about the paradigm shift of what I remember from that. I don't know if you've read that part lately in the book.
Yeah, because I'm teaching it right now.
But it's just it's refreshing to go back to something so old and be able to kind of implement it in a way that I don't think I could have 30 years ago.
Revisit it through a new lens.
Yeah.
And part of the reason that, that I think we're wanted to do this is because, to me, again, when it comes to things like books and self-help and like personal growth, it's up to you whether or not you decide it's good. Todd and I don't get to decide for you that this is good. But for me, I think these things hold up.
Yeah.
Because most books I go back and read, I'm like, either this is outdated or they didn't have this information yet, or it's too myopic, like it's too focused on one topic. And this is really broad. And it really, it's interesting because my students were like, which version do we buy? Because there's been so many versions, updates to this book.
Yeah.
I think it has its 30th anniversary or something. So, it's just a revisit.
So habit number 1, and it's funny, I'm going to even maybe not rank, but say which ones I think are more important, maybe through the parenting lens.
Before you start with habit 1, Todd, and I already mentioned the paradigm shift, but that's really the basis of this whole book, is the whole idea of a paradigm shift is a change in someone's perspective. So instead of focusing on changing the things around us, we change the way we see things. Now, there's nothing wrong with changing the things around us if we need to, but sometimes just the shit, like I remember a Return to Love, which was Marianne Williamson's book. See, I'm going way back with all these books. She actually said that a miracle is a shift in perspective. Like we think a miracle is things change around us in this way that is like spiritual or is some almost paranormal, like things just change.
Mm-hmm.
But a miracle is actually when the way you see something shifts. So your perspective on it allows you to have more freedom. And I think something that the reason why this is important is that I think that's what Todd and I have been, that's kind of always been our goal with Zen parenting, is we don't come in and say, hey, do this, say this to your kid, you know, they should be involved in this. You should focus on this, do this 10 minutes a day. We don't have any of that. It's more about open your mind to what's possible. Like if you know, the most basic thing, like you had a son and you were really excited for him to play baseball and he's not interested. And instead of like forcing an issue that you think it should be this way, and this is what I expected, and this is my dream, you open your mind to this person who has other dreams and other realities and other gifts, and you learn from this person and you become bigger and bolder and more aware because you're learning from this kid and supporting them and who they are. So that's a paradigm shift. And that happens every day with our kids. It doesn't have to be as specific as what I just shared. It's like, we thought we knew something and then we realized we didn't know everything.
Well, and I think the one that he talks about in the book is, I think he's on the train or a bus or something.
Oh yeah. This is huge. Great story.
And he's noticing that there is a man with his children.
Mm-hmm.
And the children are really restless and really causing some disruption for strangers on the train or whatever it was. And Covey, I think if it's a personal story, and I think it is, he just found himself doing what most of us would do, is like, dude, get a handle on your kids.
Judging, annoyed.
Judging and all that other stuff. And then I don't know how it happened, but maybe he ended up talking to the man and the man said, I'm sorry, we just came from the hospital or something. And their mom just passed away.
Yeah.
So think about that. Obviously, if you're a normal human being, your heart just like goes out to this family, and everything that these kids are doing no longer bothers you. As a matter of fact, instead of you wanting to like put them in timeout or whatever that is, instead you want to like embrace them and love them and support them. Yet nothing changed other than information that helped you interpret or shift your perspective. The behavior is the exact same. Nothing changed.
And this is very similar to This is Water. You know, David
Foster Wallace's
This is Water lecture about how, you know, when you're standing in line for, you know, the grocery store or wherever, and you think you're in a hurry and you think that people should hurry up and that everybody around you is annoying. What if you shift your perspective and you recognize that maybe the person who's like using all the coupons in line and taking a long time, they lost their job and they're really trying to make ends meet, or they're taking care of a spouse at home or a sick child. And if you start, or, you know, I think this one actually came from Wayne Dyer, but you know, if you're driving and someone in front of you is driving really slow, you know, what if you like thought of that person as someone who maybe had gotten to an accident and they're a little more scared to be out on the road, and you had more compassion for them. You know, what I always think about, Todd, when there's a slow driver is I just think about my dad, because my dad, you know, he was able to drive again after he had a stroke, but he would only drive in town and he'd drive pretty slow.
Yeah.
And he, you know, this was a few years after he had done rehab and everything, but he was a different driver. Yeah. And I just think about that. I would want everyone to be respectful of him taking his time. And so if there's somebody really slow, I'm like, this is like your dad. So anyway, paradigm shift.
So that's a paradigm shift. And I will include the link for the This is Water fish video.
Good.
It's 9 minutes, so it's kind of long, but it is just a wonderful example of paradigm shifts.
Absolutely.
So habit number 1, be proactive. And for me, that just means take control of maybe not your life, but how you experience life. Because there's a lot of things out there that we don't have any control of. Illness, bad days, or strangers on the street cutting you off, like but instead, like, take active participation in how you interpret life. That's what it is for me.
Yeah, I think it's basically, it connects to what we always talk about, which is you can react or you can respond. And, I would say for the last 2 or 3 weeks, there's been a few things that have been thrown our way, Todd. We actually listened next week to our talk with Dr. Solomon, because she just basically did therapy with me because I was having a tough day. And, and this happens all the time. This, when it doesn't matter if you're a parent or not, like, things get thrown your way where you're not expecting things, or you are disappointed, or whatever it may be. And there is a space between, which is Viktor Frankl, the react respond thing, to make a choice of how you want to experience what's happening, because you can't keep it from happening. It happened. But are you going to look at it through the lens of, I deserve better. This shouldn't have happened. I'm going to be mad at people or things, or be reactive to people around me, or am I going to figure out how to respond? And this is, that's proactive. Like, you have to think about these things and practice these things ahead of time, because when crisis hits, it can be very simple to go in reactivity.
Well, and if you are listening to this, odds are you are a parent. And if you're a parent, that means you have kids who are unpredictable by design.
Yeah.
And I think the quote from Franco is, between stimulus and reaction,
there is a space.
There's a space. And in that space lies freedom. And within that freedom gives you the ability to choose your response, or something to that effect.
And, one of the things that really is helpful to me when it comes to this topic is that, and I think Todd will attest to this, especially in the last couple of weeks with unpredictability, is I just need to say it all out loud. And I always, what I say to Todd is, I just need you to understand why this bothers me. And if you understand, and it's not even about him, but if Todd can understand and validate, like, yeah, that's hard for you, or of course that makes sense. It doesn't make everything okay, but I can sit with it. I think when I can't sit with it is when I feel like maybe somehow I'm out of my integrity, or that I can do something about it, or that it shouldn't have happened, or this person's a bad person, or, like, I have all these. And if I can really just talk it through and find a space for it in me, and Todd can say, yeah, that makes sense. Or a therapist can do that, or a coach, or a best friend.
Makes sense does not necessarily mean I agree.
No, not at all.
That's important. So as we go through these habits, I just want everybody to kind of think of them all through the lens of parenting, or through their own experience. Because if it's just us talking about really try to personalize all these things.
Correct.
Like, how is it that you either are or are not being proactive? Or how is it that you are actually letting a stimulus be your response without having the time to pause and create your, the way you choose it? The other thing he talks about in habit number 1, which I think is important, the difference between circle of influence and circle of concern.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk about that? Or
so basically what you're talking about is the things that we actually do have the ability to manage, and the things that we have no control over. So for example, if I wake up every day, and believe me, I am concerned about climate change, but if I wake up every day and I'm crying about climate change, and I'm stressed about it, and I'm giving myself an ulcer about it, I can do certain things, but I can't control the world. Right. I know people right now who are concerned about the election in 2024, which I am too, but I also can't do a thing about that right now. Like, I have no circle, I have no influence over that. So there's no point in me having, a stomachache about that today.
Well, and I feel like, just from a parenting perspective, I think it's really hard to really figure out what we have influence over.
I know.
Or even control. Like, there's a difference between your circle of control and your circle of influence. Maybe how our kids behave at school, or when they go out with their friends, maybe we have a little bit of influence, but we have zero control over that.
True.
Right?
No matter the age.
Right.
Like, sometimes we, when we talk about young kids, we're like, well, we have control when they're young. We really don't.
No.
Think about when they're infants. You're not like, it's bedtime, go to sleep. Like, they have their own schedule. And so Todd, just those words, control versus influence, and then influence becomes even more important, I think, in the teenage years or in the adolescent years, because they really are going out and making their own choices, and we just have influence.
So I want to spend a little bit more time on this because it's important, because I actually try to do this a lot in my own life. And then I have this worksheet for when I coach these guys, because most of the time when we're stuck on something, we're spending way too much time thinking about something that we have no control over.
Correct.
So I have them draw a vertical line down a sheet of paper, and on the left side are things that are in your control, and on the right side are things that are not in your control. And these are just a few of the kind of prompts that comes. These are the things that are not in your control. My thoughts, right? Even that, we don't even have control over our own thoughts.
Oh no, they just come up.
Our thoughts just come up.
Yeah.
Our feelings.
Our feelings are connected to our thoughts.
Right. But what we do have control is the ability to let our feelings be expressed.
And also to acknowledge, like, I feel like my thoughts have created a lot of feelings in the last couple of weeks, and that I've been trying to be really compassionate. Like, well, of course this makes you upset, even though a lot of the things you're thinking aren't necessarily true. The thoughts keep coming. And so it makes you, there's a compassion in here where, like, and I love that you're saying this is out of your control, because I think this is a little different for people. Like, I would think they'd think, well, I got to think differently.
Yes,
I got to feel differently. It's really, again, it's not reactive. It's responding to when these thoughts and feelings come up.
I'm going to give you a few more, and
Okay.
they're more practical. What I don't have control over is rush hour traffic.
No, you don't.
What do I have control over in regards to traffic?
When you leave.
Exactly. I don't have any control over the weather. What do you have control over?
What you wear.
Perfect. I don't have much control over aging, illness, or death, but what do we have control over?
Taking care of yourself on a day-to-day basis in basic ways.
I don't have any control over who likes me, but what do I have control over?
How I feel about myself and how I treat people.
Exactly. And it goes down. I mean, I can go down 20 other examples, but you get the gist. I sometimes spend way too much time in other people's business and not nearly enough time in my own business.
Me too.
So it's really important.
Yeah. And I think that's the challenge, right? Which is why we start with this one.
Yeah.
The last two things I'll say about it is there's like, this is exactly what Todd's saying, but there's a personal responsibility piece to this. This is like, we are responsible for ourselves, not in the way where we blame ourselves for everything. Like, if we get sick, it's not like I did it to myself. Like, things happen. But we then, once we are sick, we are responsible for taking care of ourselves, asking for help. So we got to be really careful when we're in self-help, when it comes to personal responsibility, because we don't want to be like, I brought it in. That's very culty.
Yeah. And
that is not, don't do that to yourself. And then there was one other thing. Just about, and Todd will love this. This is, it's about goals. Being proactive is if you have goals, or if there are, meetings that you create or appointments that you have, be proactive in how you are going to make sure you follow through.
Sweetie, are you saying you want to have more meetings?
I am not a fan of meetings ever. But there is something like, take responsibility for being proactive is, again, there's a personal responsibility piece. If you have a meeting, show up for it, be there on time. If you can't, text the person, let them know you're going to be late, or cancel and let them know that you're going to reschedule. It doesn't always mean, like, sometimes and again, Todd, you're so good at being on time, but sometimes you're so focused on it, and you have been doing a really good job of lately, just in the last couple of weeks, you've had to cancel things because of family stuff. And it's not about that you're always going to show up, because life is too unpredictable, but you're really good at calling people and saying, listen, here's what's going on. Let's reschedule.
You know what else was interesting?
What?
And I haven't talked to you about this yet. So we went to Iowa City on Saturday.
Go Hawks.
Iowa football game. It was myself.
I'm actually wearing my shirt.
Go Hawks.
Go Hawks.
And we were with some of our best friends.
Yes.
And Skylar had one of her best friends.
Yeah.
You and I had one of our best friends there. And we had a whole bunch of logistical things that we had to do that day.
Oh my gosh.
Pick up sandwiches for the game.
Get coffee before we left.
Check into the Airbnb. And I was the one
before the tailgate.
I was the one pushing our agenda that day. I don't know if you noticed that. Did you notice I was pushing our agenda?
Very much so.
Moving things along. I think if I would have let you guys do that, I don't think we would have gotten there before halftime. What do you think?
I think there's some truth to that.
You and Manisha get rolling, time doesn't exist.
Well, I think I could, I'm just going to say, yes, you might be right. Like that could be, it's true. We might've been late.
I think I'm too far the one way.
I think the piece is though, I really don't care. Like, I'm glad I was there for
I wanted to get to the tailgate early.
I understand. And I'm glad that well, the tailgate I wanted to get to too, because some of my best friends from college were there and I didn't want to miss that. And you know what I love now? Sorry, this is just a quick note. I love knowing my best friends' kids. That's so fun.
I agree.
Like I always have, like, this isn't new, but to know them now, because they're all growing up and they're like such interesting people.
I think it's a huge, me growing up, I loved my friends' parents.
Yeah.
And they loved me. And
Yes.
I'd walk into the house and I'd grab a piece of pizza.
They're like our kids.
They're like our kids. And I think it's a really understated, underappreciated piece of relationships is our friends' kids.
It is. And you kind of always have that in your town when your kids have friends or whatever, but then to extend it out to your best friends from like college or high school and to know that, their kids and and not about knowing them so they think of you as a mom, but just knowing them as human beings. Like I walked away from the weekend being like, I loved being with all those kids.
Yeah.
Like, so anyway, side note, let's go to number 2, Todd.
Number 2, begin with the end in mind. What does that one say to you, babe?
Well, begin with the end in mind is like, have some perspective on what you want in the long run. Like begin with the end in mind is where the whole idea of having a mission statement comes in, because if you're clear about who you are, what you want, and what your values are, it makes it a lot easier to make decisions. So having, like Todd and I, if you guys go to the Zen Parenting Radio website and you scroll down, you'll see our vision, our mission, our pillars, which are self-awareness, mindfulness, compassion, and connection. So we basically know that every show is somehow going to be connected to those pillars. And I think most of the time it's all 4. Like usually we're discussing all 4. So if you have clarity about who you are and what you're doing, it makes it easier to say yes to things, say no to things, to make choices about what your goals are.
Our vision, I don't have it memorized. I'll be very honest.
Oh, I don't either, Todd.
Making the world a more civil and compassionate place by doing work we love with people we care about in a way that is aligned with our values, personality, and lifestyle. What's interesting about that is, although I don't have it memorized, I do feel like we are in alignment upon what we do and what we're striving to get to.
Striving to. Yeah. I remember we were writing these, and the one that, like, the lines where I was like, we have to say work we love. Yeah. Because there is a difference between work that other people think we should be doing and work we love. I remember being like, we have to be very distinct about that. And also the last sentence, there was something where I was like, it doesn't matter. I like our vision.
I think our mission statement needs some work.
Okay, let's hear it.
To use experience, research, pop culture, and humor to evolve and explain self-awareness and mindfulness, period. That's great.
Okay.
Reflective and respectful discourse is offered through the use of, and then we go on and talk about everything we do. And I like much, so it says, reflective and respectful discourse is offered through the use of podcasts, conferences, presentations, community screenings, group work, individual work. It's way too much.
Okay.
We just got to find one word for all that stuff. Through our work. Reflective and respectful discourse is offered through our work.
Yeah, I think we should change it.
We'll talk.
I think we were probably, because we wrote that, I don't know, like 8 years ago. And I think we were probably more in a marketing mindset. Yeah, right. Like we were trying to tell everybody what we said.
Anything else about begin? I think my take is, you have to know where you want to go if you
want to get there.
Well,
and also the other thing is his thing that he asks you to do besides the mission statement is think about your funeral. What do you want people to say about you? I have unfortunately had to write a few obituaries. My parents died and your mom died. And, we've had people that we love very much that I've had to write about them. And it's been really interesting to pull from people's lives and be like, these are the things that I know people like. When I think about my mom, I knew that it would have the word kindness in it. Kind. And with my dad, he was like, he was obviously very kind and he was very brave. And what's the word, where he was always evolving to the next level, and it was like, you really, what you do in present, what you're doing now is how people remember you. There's no people will remember me for that one day I had. Right. People remember what you offer consistently.
Yeah.
And there is
habits.
We're
talking about habits.
We're
right?
talking about habits. And the two things I think of is this is really the same thing, but Oprah, I remember, did this talk about, she went to a friend's dad passed away and she went to the funeral, and just the amount of people that spoke about this person. Not that Oprah needs to like raise her game. She's already amazing, but she was like, oh my gosh, that's what I want. I want to live a life where people, and it's not, that's what I want, let me tell people to talk about me this way.
No.
You don't manufacture
You got to
it.
live it.
You live it because you want people to see that in you. You know, you want people to know that's your character and your values. And it's not about, and then the thing about, I wrote about it in my book, Bronnie Ware's essay, and it turned into a book about the habits of the things that people who are dying say.
Yeah.
You know,
The hospice nurse.
the hospice nurse. And she was talking about, on deathbed regrets, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't have them all memorized, but the core of it was, I wish I wouldn't have worked all the time. I wish I would have been with people. And the big one was, I wish I would have been myself. We have this one opportunity in life where we came into the world a certain way. We've had certain experiences, and to be anything other than who you are doesn't make any sense, because this is it. It's that there's this is in Mark Nepo's Book of Awakening, and I'm sure it's a parable or a story that he pulled from, but the whole idea of, I'm using the imagery of going to heaven, whether or not you believe in that, but the gist of it is, when you get there, and you say, God, how did I do? And if God were to say to you, great, but why, if your name's Susan, like, why weren't you Susan though? Yeah. Why were you everybody else but Susan? I gave you Susan, be her. So it's like one of those.
We could do a whole podcast on the top 5 regrets, but I'm just going to read them all.
Sure, go ahead.
I wish I'd had the courage to live truer to myself, not the life others expected of me.
Yeah.
So once again, we're at parenting. And I think a lot of parents get tripped up by
creating a life for their kids.
Yes. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Number 2, I wish I hadn't worked so hard.
Yep.
I could probably.
Sweetie, I'm chasing after you in dreams. You don't have to work so hard.
I wish I'd had the courage to express my feelings. Another one I could probably use some help on.
You do a great job with that.
Oh, thanks.
You do a great job with that.
Thanks, babe. Number 4, I wish I had stayed in touch with my friends.
Mm-hmm.
I got no issues there. I'm good at that. I wish I'd let myself be happier.
Yeah. Like I actually today, I'm in a really good mood today. We just had a really great weekend. A lot of wonderful things have happened with my kids in the last day or two. And part of me, I was in the shower and I'm like, well, you shouldn't be so excited. Like I was being like hard on myself about being happy. I'm like, what the heck? Yeah. I am going to be happy. And you have that voice in your head that tells you to tone it down. And I think it's like, I know exactly where that voice comes from in my history, my family history. But I don't want to wait for the other shoe to drop. Because it will, because life doesn't always feel good. No. So it's like, I'm just going to enjoy it and be in a good mood.
Habit number 3, put first things first.
Yes, first things first. This reminds me of my Aunt Peg. Remember, this was like, she loved this.
There's this tool called the Eisenhower Matrix, and he has 4 different quadrants.
Yeah.
In the upper, I think it's the upper left, it's urgent and important. Mm-hmm. Those are the things that we should do.
First things first.
Quadrant 2 is, it's not urgent, but it's important. That's stuff that you need to plan out to do. Mm-hmm. Quadrant number 3, it's urgent, but it's not important. And if you can, that's something that you probably want to delegate if possible. Mm-hmm. And then finally, quadrant number 4 is, it's not urgent, it's not important. That's what you got to eliminate.
Yeah. Don't do those things.
And I think it's so funny how some of his words come back to me. He's like, that doesn't mean don't ever watch TV.
No.
Because TV could be important to kind of recharge your battery, fill it up. So
connect with people.
Yeah, just connect. So it's not. And the other thing I want to mention is that these first 3 are in the umbrella of independence, right? And then the next 4, I think,
are interdependence.
So anyways, anything you wanted to say about that?
Yeah. So first things first, I always think about, we use this a lot, and he talked about the big rocks.
Yes. Big rocks first.
Big rocks first. And
we
say it all the time. It's like, we've had to pack the car a lot lately, and Todd's always like, big rocks first. You put the air mattress in, or you put the big bags in first, and then you go from there. Or big rocks can also be emotional. Like, let's deal with the big issues that we're experiencing right now, and then deal with the little things. Like big rocks doesn't have to be literal. I think that, let me see. There a lot in First Things First is about time management, but Stephen Covey really didn't believe in, figure out how to allocate time in a very specific way. A lot of time management is about, wake up and do this for 30 minutes and do this for 20 minutes. And it becomes very tight and controlled. And what he believed more in is be clear about what's most important to you and do those things. Like, instead of make it a time, like on the clock thing, make it more like figure out a way to do the things that mean the most to you.
Yeah.
And instead of like, there's a few things every day that I'm like, if I, do yoga or meditate or spend time with Todd or take a walk or read a book or do some writing, that means it's a good day for me.
Yeah.
Like, I love those things. So if I end up getting on my email or doing a bunch of petty stuff during the day and I don't do those other things, at the end of the day, I'm like, I didn't like today as much. So it's like, we have to be very clear about what means the most to us. Okay, go on, Todd.
So habit number 4 is called think win-win.
Yeah.
So I think he says that there's lose-lose. So let's say you and I are in a discussion.
Argument.
And I don't know, let's say it's about, what are we going to do this Friday?
Mm-hmm.
And I want to go get pizza and you want to go get veggie burgers.
Mm-hmm.
A lose-lose would be, I don't know, we both get spaghetti or something, who knows, whatever it is. So like, we both feel worse.
We both don't get what we want.
Lose-win is I get my pizza, but you don't get your veggie burgers.
Right.
Win-lose is the opposite.
Right.
And then win-win is, okay, how do we figure this out where we're both happy?
We go get me a veggie burger and you get your pizza.
Yeah, go to a Cheesecake Factory where the menu is 14 pages long.
Well, and that's a really interesting one, because I think families always struggle with meals with the family.
Yeah.
I don't struggle with it as much as Todd does. I grew up as a latchkey kid and I fed myself all the time.
You get very excited when you're on your own.
I love being on my own for dinner so I can just focus on myself. Because for 20 years, I've been focusing on other people.
Yeah.
Like, I've been having to be like, what will everyone eat? When are we going to get it? What time will everyone be home? It's never, I can't get, so there's a lot of win-lose where I can't really have or do what I want. And then at the same token, sometimes we try and do win-win and you end up driving to 3 places to get food. And that feels crazy too.
Well, I don't have to do it anymore because 2 of our kids are out of the house, but talk about transparency. Like, that's not a story I'm very particularly proud of, because I think that, and the story is, I would sometimes literally go to 3 different restaurants.
Yeah.
And I think there was one time where I went to 4 different restaurants.
No. Did we really?
Because we had a family of 5, and that's like, it's like
over the top.
Embarrassing and ridiculous, and I go back to my own childhood where my poor, wonderful Norwegian grandmother would cook this terrible meat with baked potatoes every night. And I would be so sad about having the same damn meal all the time.
Well, let me go back. I don't want to dig. I know we've got a few more here, but you just said it's so embarrassing.
It is.
Why is it who? Who are you embarrassed?
Because
like, what's the embarrassment?
That my kids should be more flexible, and I'm giving them, I'm reinforcing this idea that they can get what they want, when they want, how they want.
Okay.
That's why it's embarrassing.
Even though it was only occasional, we didn't do that every night.
Certainly didn't do it every night, but for my taste, we did a little too often.
Well, and again, it's just interesting. I think the reason I'm bringing this up is not just for you, Todd, it's for people listening.
Yeah.
The emotion that Todd experienced when that would happen was embarrassment. Mm-hmm. And embarrassment makes us want to shut it down, make it wrong.
I was mad because I had to go to 4 different restaurants.
Okay.
But then if somebody's like, oh, how was your parenting day today? I'm like, well, I went to 4 restaurants to feed my 5 family members.
But the emotion was still embarrassment. You were still, Oh, sorry. That was my coffee. There was, and again, I'm not criticizing your feeling.
Yeah.
What I'm talking about is that, because there's the things I'm embarrassed of.
Because it reflects poorly on
you. But then the way you're going to respond to the girls is like a guilting way, because they're making you feel as if you're doing something wrong.
When I probably would internalize that and not even tell them I'm so annoyed because I have to go to 4 different restaurants.
And do you think they wouldn't know?
Yeah, they probably figured it out.
Yeah. And that's the thing, is that's kind of what we mean about what you say versus the energy you hold. And that's interesting, because there's things that are embarrassing to me too, that sometimes I have to be like, why is this embarrassing? Mm-hmm. Silly things like Todd, if I'm like, Todd, I don't know if I should go there because I haven't put on makeup or I haven't showered today. He's like, why would that be a problem for you. I don't know. And I have to be like, why is that a problem for me? Like, why does that bother me? And so this is just an interesting, digging into emotions. But I would also, you were just saying before that starting at number 4, we're talking about interdependence.
We're talking about relationships, other people.
Exactly. Which interestingly, last week, we had Jennifer Wallace on the show, and it was a great conversation about her book, Never Enough. And she talked about how interdependence is really the key to everything when it comes to helping our kids understand that they matter and belong. And so, and again, I love Jennifer Wallace's language. She used the word mattering and belonging and brought up all this research. And I love that Stephen Covey's book from 30 years ago was saying the exact same thing, right? I love when things come full circle again.
Yeah.
So is there anything?
No, go to habit 5.
Well, can I just say one thing about win-win?
Sure.
To adopt a win-win mindset, you must cultivate the habit of interpersonal leadership, which we know. And this involves exercising these traits: self-awareness, which we talk about all the time, imagination, consciousness, and independent will.
Boom.
And I just love that, again, it comes full circle. Okay, go ahead.
Number 5. And I think this for me is probably the most important of the habits. Like this should be habit 1, but I know that the way he framed it, he wanted to be independence and then interdependence. But habit 5 is seek first to understand, then to be understood.
Correct.
I think very few of us, including me, rarely does that. I think we're wired to defend our position before we really want to walk in the shoes of somebody else. And, it's listening. And
yes.
I think most of us are, including me, I'm a better listener now than I was 10 years ago. And hopefully I'll be a better listener 10 years from now than I am today. But it is, if I can only do one of these habits, I feel like if I could just snap my fingers and be an expert at any of these things, it would be habit number 5. I think my life would be less drama filled if I could do this.
Yeah. And really you're talking about listening, but it's empathic listening, and the ability to empathically listen means you're open to what the person is saying.
And be influenced to change your mind.
That's it, is that it goes back to the paradigm shift. If you are just listening to someone like, yeah, keep going. Yeah. Finish your statement. Okay. Now me again, then you're not listening. You're just pretending to listen until you can get your point across.
Yeah.
Empathic listening is the potential for a paradigm shift where you can see someone's perspective differently. Seek first to understand. He doesn't just say seek first to listen.
Yeah.
Seek first to understand. Then you can be understood. And I feel like people, I've said this before, but I teach communication in my college classes, and when I tell them we're going to talk about communication, I always say, okay, what do you guys think I mean by this? And they think I'm going to have them give a speech or learn how to say things. And I'm like, no, we're just going to talk about listening. To me, communication, especially if you're a social worker, which is what I'm teaching, is the ability to empathically listen.
Yeah.
And I just think that that's really hard for people. I mean, and Todd, there are certain people that I get triggered by in life. And when I am going to see them or be with them, I really, before I'll make a point to myself, like, okay, I'm going to be an empathic. I don't use this language because I'll just be like, I'm going to do better at listening.
You set an intention.
I try to set an intention so my ego gets a little in check before I get there. Mm-hmm. I usually do about 65% well.
I knew I was about to get into a heavy conversation with somebody that's in my life, and I knew it was going to be a tough one.
Yeah.
And I knew I didn't want to have it in my house because there's too many distractions. It's too familiar.
Yeah.
So I went to the picnic table across the street, and it was a nice day, and there's trees surrounding me. And that was me being, okay, I really need to be as empathic as I can be.
That's good.
And that's a little bit of being proactive. Because I could have, if I would have been distracted entering this conversation at home with all these other distractions to set up for me to fail.
Yeah.
So anyways, that's what I did.
Yeah, exactly. And I know when I say triggered by it, I don't mean these people are like bad people. I just mean sometimes the things that they say, I get really egoic, or I'll be like, I already know that, or I'll be like, you're, in my mind, I'm like, you're wrong, And so I have to go in and remember to be a better listener than usual. I have to be like, really turn it up a notch with with the listening. And then, you know, there's less reactivity. It works, like I said, 65% of the time. Sweetie, what does he say? 60% of the time.
It works.
It works every time.
Habit number 6.
Yes.
Synergize. Which
Synergize.
I don't remember anything about this chapter, and it's just like, you know, be a team player. But this one kind of bores me, to be honest with you.
Well, what if you thought about it this way? Synergize, yes, when he's talking about a business model, he's talking about in an organization or wherever you're working, take into account everybody's skill set, listen to what they have to offer, allow them to come in and make a difference, have space for that, and then bring all those pieces together, and you're going to have a better team. So think about how that affects a family.
I think it's good advice. Oh, it's funny. Let's talk about that, because if I'm a team leader at a company, I think synergize is really important. But with family,
no, you'll love this. You'll get this. Family it's not about you let your 5-year-old decide the rules of a house. It's that we've got 3 daughters.
Yeah.
They're all very different.
Yeah.
They all have different perspectives on things. We create space to allow all those perspectives to come in. The way we talk about things is we allow ourselves to integrate some of the things they're teaching us. We create a model of respect where all of our daughters, it's not that they're always, they argue and they do all that, but the modeling we're trying to do is you don't have to agree with your sister, but can you see her perspective? And you don't have to have her life experience, but can you understand why A, B, and C is important? And you start to bring in everybody's perspective into your family, and it becomes, you allow for it. There are families I'm working with, right now who they're still struggling with things like, the way that you are or the things that you do, we don't approve.
Yeah.
Or, the way that you dress, that's not how our family dresses. There's still these really basic things that people are trying to control instead of understand and allow.
Yeah.
And I understand, if parents are like, well, my kid's trying to get a tattoo and they're only 16. I understand limits and boundaries, but you can also understand why that kid wants a tattoo.
Yeah.
You can also understand, you can talk to them about it. Tell me what you want and what you're going to get when you're 18 or, whatever your rules are.
I think the goal is if you can honestly say that makes sense. So let's talk about a kid wanting a tattoo.
Yeah.
I'm not a tattoo guy. I actually think tattoos, for the most part, I just don't get it. I think our skin is such a precious thing. To paint it just isn't my jam. Okay. But I think the goal for me, let's say our kid calls us up later today and says, I'm getting a big tattoo on my shoulder. My goal would be to really try to understand why she wants that tattoo and really try to see it from her perspective of all the benefits of what a tattoo gives to somebody. And that doesn't necessarily mean I want to get a tattoo, but can I see it from her perspective?
Well, and that's the thing is you don't want a tattoo, but I would hope you don't judge people who get tattoos, because 90% of our family has tattoos.
Well, it's not that I'm more thinking about, and this is where it gets weird, because there's there's somebody walking down the street and their whole left leg is full of tattoos. I'm just there's total judgment there. What are you doing?
Well, probably because and again, I don't know, because you're talking about someone that we don't really know, but tattoos can be a stabilizing force for somebody. There can be messages and foundational principles and experiences they've had that they want to integrate and that they want people to know and that they want to remember, or imagery that helps them be powerful. And so for that, I just don't feel like we have a say in what, and again, I don't have judgment about people with tattoos at all.
Let me be clear.
Yeah,
I know I don't have a say, but I can have an opinion.
You can.
And the more tattoos somebody has in their body, the more likely I am to say, that does not look pleasant to me.
Well, and then what my hope would be for you is that if someone started to tell you about each of their tattoos, you'd realize how supportive, inspirational, meaningful these
I don't
are.
even get to that point with them.
So, and that's the thing is you're just being honest about I have a judgment, but I bet if you were to sit down, you'd be like, that makes total sense. I think about, some of my favorite people who have, my best friends who have tattoos. And a lot of times it's things that they have written to remind them to stay to breathe,
Yeah.
or to remember somebody who has passed, or to have a quote that inspires them. I was so ready to get a tattoo when I was 25. I just didn't end up doing it because my friend Meg and I, we were going to do it. And then we were like, we don't know what we want. So I've always thought I'd eventually get a tattoo. I just haven't figured it
Get
out.
one when she was like 60 something.
Your mom got one like 3 years before she died.
Yeah.
And your sister has a bunch. My sister has a bunch. Most of my family has them.
Yeah.
And then it's funny because it goes to the extreme. Then one of my daughters has, and then my oldest has a lot of piercings. She her ears are pierced in like a million different ways. But then my middle daughter has 0 piercings. She doesn't wear any jewelry. She doesn't wear any rings. She doesn't even have ears pierced. She doesn't wear nail polish. She just doesn't like anything like that.
Yeah.
And so it just can be really interesting, instead of this is how people should be, to really allow people to express themselves, because it's really, when it's organic, it's really, what's the word I'm looking for? It helps you know somebody better.
Personal.
Yeah. It's personal. Yeah. Okay.
Last but not least, sharpen the saw, habit 7.
Yeah.
And for me, that just means keep doing your work. Like you never get there. We're never like, oh, I get it. I'm now Zen, or
there's no such thing.
Am an expert at the 7 habits of highly effective people. There's no such thing, because we're human beings who are flawed and beautiful all at the same time. And I just need to keep doing my work.
Well, and just because you said now I'm Zen, just so everyone knows, Zen is an idea, but it's not something you can become. Like, I don't know if people understand that, but I mean, if you want to use it generically, you can be like, oh, I'm feeling Zen. That's fine. Everyone can use words the way they want to. You don't have to listen to me. But when studying Zen, like because that's obviously the title of our podcast, Zen is an idea, a concept, a story, a parable, an understanding, a paradox. It's not like someone becomes Zen.
Right.
I'm just saying that because sometimes people use it in an interesting way. Sharpening the saw is about focusing on your physical, health, your social, emotional health, your spiritual health, and your mental health. And if you can do that you can do one activity, like say you're a runner, you may be able to cover every base, which is running. You know what I mean? Like some people find that to be a very spiritual, mental, you can, and for some people, they do a lot of different things. It could be a book, it could be reading, it could be walking. It doesn't matter. It depends on what you want. But I always loved sharpen the saw, because that's what's so fun for me, is the ability to continue to learn something, or how good it feels to take care of yourself.
Yeah.
And sometimes when I say that, how good it feels to take care of yourself, I don't mean just exercise. I feel like people get too focused on that kind of stuff. I just mean how good it feels to even sit down sometimes and be like, this is for me. Like I'm going to take care of myself. I need to rest. That's why I don't like the word lazy, because I think sometimes we just need to relax. So what's your favorite in sharpen the saw? Like, what do you enjoy when you think sharpen the saw? What do you enjoy doing the most?
For me, what's coming to me, I didn't know you're going to ask me that question. It's the day-to-day experience of investigating my own reactivity.
Yeah, I love that too.
Like, wow, I'm getting really pissed right now. Why am I getting so pissed? What's happening? How can I look at this different? And that's it for me. And most of the time I don't work on myself. Most of the time I'm in autopilot, but for the times that I'm like, okay, whatever judgment I have about whoever happens to be in front of me, there's some disowned part of me that I have not yet really investigated and come through. So,
well, and I would say I'm very similar to you. I would say I like to notice my reactivity to something when I've shared this before, but I sometimes have this feeling of like complete terror, and I know that it's old, and it connects itself to different things. Like it's not one thing. I'll just be terrified about, like, and I'm making this up, but this is how crazy it is. Like Todd will be like, I'm not going to go to the grocery store today, and I'll be terrified.
Yeah.
And I have to be like, what's going on? And I have to like trace it back to what do I think's happening right now? Yeah. And I appreciate that. I don't enjoy that process. I appreciate it. And then what I love is being able to have the paradigm shift in my mind where I get the release, where I'm no longer terrified. And sometimes when I am still afraid, how I can walk through it. That's when I'm most proud of myself, is when I'm having a difficult experience and I'm able to keep going. Like, well, then I'm going to go take a shower, or I'm going to call a friend, or I keep going rather than succumb to it. And I'm not talking about like, if you're tired, go to bed. Like that's not succumbing. I'm talking about that I believe that what I'm feeling is right. I instead am like, that's when I'm most proud of myself. That's a sharpening the saw for me.
Well, all feelings have value.
Right.
If you allow them to be expressed and then take the lesson from them afterwards.
Right.
So,
and then on the basic level, my sharpening the saw is I love to read and I love to write. So if I'm doing those things, I feel like I'm growing.
yeah, I don't particularly like to read or write.
Do you want me to do math? What are you doing?
I don't know. I don't know what I do.
I do. I think you are very curious. I think you're investigating all the time.
I am. It's just, I like books with short chapters.
Mhm.
Did you
You
read
listen to a lot.
I listen to a lot. Yeah, I consume a lot of information. It's just, it's not typically the same way
You're
you
an
do.
auditory learner.
I am.
Mhm.
And visual. I like YouTube
Mhm.
clips.
Yeah, you like
You know.
YouTube too. What were you going to ask me?
I sent you that blog by Morgan Housel, and there was a piece on it about writing and reading. I forgot what it was.
I read it.
I know, but there's something that had to do with what we're talking about, but I don't remember what it was. So, it was about-
Well, I will just say, I'm so glad. I know we covered this fast, but I think it really will be fun for people, if you enjoyed this discussion, to go back and read this book. And you might find things you don't like. Like, this is an older book, so there might be ways he says things that may not be gender. He may not be thoughtful about gender, or he may not be thoughtful about sexuality or heteronormative. Like there may be things where it's not as current as it should be.
Mhm.
And I totally get that. But I think that the big concepts are really interesting to revisit. I think that they're very energizing.
3 things.
Yeah.
Buy a ticket to Zen Parenting 2024 in January. What's the dates?
26, 27. It's a Friday. Oh, and something you wanted me to mention, Todd, about the Zen Parenting 2024 is it's all day Friday and all day Saturday. Like Devora, I think, is our first speaker, and she goes on at like 12 or 1.
Yeah.
So a lot of times historically we've started at Friday night. This time we had so much content that we wanted to focus on with teens that it starts on Friday during the day and goes through
we
Saturday.
got to send an email to everybody who's done.
Yeah, we have to.
The welcome on the 26th is at 1:00.
Okay.
So everybody knows.
But we have things before that.
That's
like I'm doing a women's group and you're doing a men's group. So really we have pre-conference stuff too.
We should probably adjust our website because it doesn't talk about that.
I know. Well, that's because we still have details we need to figure out.
Working out the details. So buy a ticket, try Team Zen out, get some fuzzy socks thrown your way. And then lastly, our partner since very day one is Jeremy Kraft. He's a bald-headed beauty, painting and remodeling throughout the Chicagoland area, 630-956-1800.
He came over the other day and fixed my sink in 2 seconds.
Avidco.net.
Thanks, Jeremy, for fixing this thing.
Thanks for listening. Keep trucking, everybody.